friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today I'm going to be doing my June book haul. I have quite a few books here to talk about as usual, and the first stack are actually ones that I talked about in the 2 vlogs that I filmed while I was in New York, those 2 weekends. So I'm just going to real quick run through this stack. Then I have a stack from the used bookstore that I returned some books that I was unhauling and picked up quite a few more, and I did show some of those in an Insta story, so if you follow me on Instagram you may have already seen some of those, but I'll go through that stack. Then I have a couple that I purchased or were sent to me or I swapped for. I have my book of the month order from June, and then I have a book outlet order that I was waiting for a May haul, but it didn't come until June, so I have that to share with you as well. So I have quite a few books to run through. Let's just jump right in. So these first ones I'm not going to talk about because I already talked about them in those 2 weekend reading vlogs. So we have Mud Shark by Gary Paulson, a very tiny little middle grade. Another middle grade called The Dark Hills Divide by Patrick Carman. And I did hear that a couple of you had read these when you were young, so I'm really looking forward to that. Up From Slavery, an autobiography by Booker T. Washington. Classic Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Books that were given to me. My cousin had read this, As Close to Us as Breathing by Elizabeth Polliner. Loved it and said I should read it. This is a World War II historical fiction about 3 Jewish sisters and some kind of mystery. My friend Joy, for my birthday, which is coming up very soon on July 7th, she gave me City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert and The Secret Orphan by Glynis Peters. Very excited for both of those. And then I purchased at a store in New York Mary Higgins Clark mystery called I've Got My Eyes on You, and another middle grade that Amanda from Curly Reader introduced me to, which is Everything Else in the Universe, which is a Vietnam War historical middle grade. So I'm really looking forward to all of those. Not sure when I'll get to them, but I'm really excited for them. And then from the used bookstore, I got a handful of adult books and then a bigger chunk of middle grade books, and I'm really excited because I used mostly store credit for these by returning books that I was not interested in reading anymore or had already read. So I grabbed The Coincidence of Coconut Cake by Amy E. Reichart. I have The Simplicity of Cider by her, and I think she's from the Midwest. Yeah, she writes about life in the Midwest. I think these are contemporaries, often have a lot of food references. I've heard good things. They sound very summery to me, and I'm excited to give her a shot. I don't know where I heard about this one. The Weight of Ink by Rachel Kadish. I believe this one was a book recommended to me last year in 2019 when I asked my subscribers, you guys, for recommendations. 1 or 2 of you recommended this book, and I had never heard of it. So it went on my want to read shelf on Goodreads, and I use that list when I'm in the used bookstore. I kind of go through there and see what I can find. I had no clue that it was such a huge book. It's a big one. It did sound pretty interesting as well. Set in London, so it's historical, in the 1660s and of the early 2000s, so we have dual timeline. The Weight of Ink is the interwoven tale of 2 women of remarkable intellect. An immigrant from Amsterdam, permitted to scribe for a blind rabbi just before the plague hits the city, and Helen Watt, an ailing historian with a love of Jewish history. I'm intrigued, and because it was recommended by one of you, and because it won the National Jewish Book Award, I don't know what year, but very intrigued to read that one. I grabbed Harry's Trees by John Cohen. I think I first heard about this on Anne Bogle's podcast, What Should I Read Next? I think she interviewed John Cohen at one point, and I heard that interview, and since then have heard a lot of people talk about this book. And I know it's one that deals with grief, and that's something that is always a draw to me in books. So I'm very excited that I found this for super cheap and could use store credit for it. And the last adult book that I picked up at Second and Charles is Washington Black by Essie Eduyan. And I had heard a lot of really good things about this one. This has been on my radar for quite a while, and I believe this is about 2 men who kind of, somewhat of a road trip. 11-year-old George Washington Black, or Wash, a field slave on Barbados sugar plantation, is initially terrified when he is chosen to be the manservant of his master's brother. To his surprise, however, the eccentric Christopher Wilde turns out to be a naturalist, explorer, inventor, and abolitionist. Soon he's initiated into a world where two people separated by an impossible divide can begin to see each other as human. Very excited for this. I've heard really good things about it and was excited to find it. The middle grade books that I picked up, I'm so excited for. I grabbed 3 more Pam Munoz Ryan books. I've read Echo and now I've read Esperanza Rising, and I want to read everything that she's written because I love her writing style. So I grabbed The Dreamer, Paint the Wind, and Becoming Naomi Leone. And I don't know anything about these 3 books except that they're written by Pam Munoz Ryan, and I'm very excited to have more from her to read. I grabbed book 4 in the Land of Stories. I do have books 1, 2, and 3, and this is the next one that I needed to own. So I'm excited to have that one. It's part of a series that I'm in the middle of. Jennifer Nielsen wrote A Night Divided, which is, I believe, a World War II, like kind of post-World War II when the Berlin Wall goes up, something along those lines. And this is a middle grade / YA that someone had mentioned to me about during middle grade March. So it's kind of been on my radar for just a couple months, but I was excited to find a paperback copy of it at 2nd and Charles to add to my collection of middle grades. Speaking of adding to my collection of middle grades, you guys know I'm working on reading all the Newbery winners, and this is A Single Shard by Linda Sue Park. And I have recently heard, I think it was Mindy on Currently Reading podcast, talk about this one and just absolutely loved it. And because it's a Newbery winner and I want to read them all, I don't necessarily need to own them all, but I am excited to own that one. The final middle grade book I picked up at 2nd and Charles is The Wolf Wilder by Catherine Rundell. And I had her name on my radar because of another book that I'm going to haul in just a moment. She's a middle grade author, and I just thought that this cover was stunning. And so I was just perusing the shelves and it jumped out to me, so I grabbed it. I think this one takes place in Russia, the icy woods to St. Petersburg. She must travel through the icy woods to St. Petersburg and trust strangers. And I believe there's about a girl and a wolf, and it takes place in Russia. So it's a little bit historical possibly, but it doesn't have a date on the back, so I'm not really sure about that. But I just thought that this cover was stunning. And I had heard Amanda from the Curly Reader talk a lot about Catherine Rundell because she watched an interview between Anna James on her channel, which I can't remember the name of her channel right now. Anna James wrote Tilly and the Book Wanderers, and a couple months ago was doing a lot of interviews with middle grade authors, and Catherine Rundell was one of them. And so Amanda sent this book to me by Catherine Rundell. This is a nonfiction called Why You Should Read Children's Books, Even Though You Are So Old and Wise. And as one of the hosts of Middle Grade March, I just thought that this would be a lot of fun to read. People ask that question quite often. Why do I read middle grade books? And I have the answers of why I read it, but I just thought that this would be a fun little essay to read. It's a super short little book that Amanda said she loved. And so she sent it to Katie and I, and I'm very excited about that. So thank you, Amanda. I did a swap on the Facebook group that I'm a part of. I think it's called the Book Swap USA or something. You just post pictures of books you're getting rid of and see if anyone wants to swap a book with you. So I got rid of a book and I picked up No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is a thriller that I've heard is a little bit brutal, and it takes place in a wintry setting. I think this young girl is traveling home. I don't know if she's in college, but she stops at this truck stop because the weather just gets so bad and it turns into a blizzard and people are kind of stranded at this truck stop. But then I think she runs out to the car for something and sees a young girl or a teenage girl trapped in someone else's vehicle. So one of these people that she's been connecting with in the truck stop has this girl locked in their vehicle out in the parking lot or something along those lines. I don't know if people start dying, but I've heard that it's pretty brutal and intense, and I don't know, it just intrigued me. It's not my normal read by any means, but I have had it on my radar, and so when I saw that I could swap it, so basically get rid of a book and pick up a book for free, I thought I would do it. So we'll see. We'll see about that one. Yikes. I did purchase one book this month on my own, which I don't normally do, full price-ish. I mean, I got it from Amazon. I usually get discount books from Book Outlet or something like that, but I grabbed Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev because I absolutely loved her book, Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors. This is her new release. I think it just came out in May, maybe even June. When did this come out? Well, it just says 2020. I don't know. So it's a brand new release, and Persuasion is my favorite, so I had to buy it. So I added this to an Amazon order I was already placing, and I'm really excited to see what she does with this retelling. I'm probably going to read it this month for Jane Austen July. I'm really excited for this one. All right, I did get 3 books from Book of the Month this time. I picked 2 of the June choices. I did have an extra credit or 2. I think one of you guys or 2 of you had signed up for Book of the Month to give it a try, and when you use the link that's always down in my description box, I get an extra credit. So I had a couple extra credits, so I picked up 1 older book and then 2 from this month's selections, which is good because I was looking at July selections and I don't think I'm gonna pick one in July. So I have an extra month to catch up on them. But the first one is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. This is a contemporary, possibly romance, about a plus-size woman who is a pretty famous fashion blogger or vlogger, I'm not sure which, has a pretty big following, has, I think, made fun of this Bachelor type show, and then that show reaches out to her to become the new Bachelorette, and she agrees with the stipulation that she is not going to fall in love. So of course she's gonna fall in love. That's what I think. But I love The Bachelor, and I love the idea of a plus size protagonist. So I'm really, really excited for this. This is also on my July TBR. And one more on my July TBR is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. And I'm really excited for this one. Britt Bennett is the author of The Mothers, which I still have yet to read. But this one involves 2 sisters, 2 African-American sisters, who at some point are split up or they choose different lives. They're twins, not just sisters. Inseparable as children, ultimately choose to live in 2 very different worlds, one black and one white. So one of the sisters chooses to live as white passing and the other doesn't. It just tells about their story and their different lives, and I believe their lives come back together at some point, multiple points, I'm not sure. With Book of the Month, some people make their decisions right away at the beginning of the month of which books they want. I always love to wait until later in the month because I like to see what people think about these books before I purchase them, especially if they're ones I haven't heard of before. Now, I had heard of this author before because of The Mothers, and I knew that a lot of people really loved that book, so it was already kind of on my radar. But as people started reading it and loving it and giving it 5 stars and just raving about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's one I need to bring home. I like my strategy of waiting because it gives me a little better idea of what people that I already watched their opinions both on Instagram and YouTube to see what they think about it. So excited for that one. And the third Book of the Month pick is a little bit older, and I grabbed Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. This is, I think, kind of a contemporary mystery, probably not thriller, but I believe it has to do with like a medical courtroom drama, literary courtroom thriller about an immigrant family and a young single mother accused of killing her autistic son. So in this town in Virginia, this Korean couple has this kind of medical mystery miracle machine that's like some sort of submarine that you can go into it and become healed, but there's some kind of problem that happens and a mother sends her autistic son in there, and then the submarine malfunctions, I think, and the son dies, and so the mother is charged with murder. I'm assuming that the Korean couple is also facing difficulties because it's their machine. I don't know. And so it's mainly a courtroom drama, which isn't really a buzzword for me, but I know so many people have absolutely loved this. It is one that has made it pretty far in the BookTube prize. I'm not sure if it's still in this round. I'm not in this round. April from Getting Hygge With It has called it the best book she's read so far this year. So I'm really excited to have this one now and eventually get to it. Because yeah, the more people talk about it, the more I'm intrigued. So I just threw it in my cart. And finally, I have quite a few books here that I picked up from Book Outlet. 2 of them are middle grade. One I already have read, The Kind of Paradise by Amy Rebecca Tan. When I first read this, I had borrowed it from the library, which is very appropriate because it's all about a love story to the library, basically. So I just wanted to have my own copy of it because it was just such a lovely, lovely book. Easily one of my favorite middle grades of the year. I've thought about it after reading it. It just was one of those that you just want to give a hug to afterwards. And I've talked about this multiple times on my channel. It's so good. Young girl has to do community service and volunteering at a library, and she learns about the importance of her library and her community and makes friends with the staff and the patrons, and it's just lovely. so I had to have my own copy. Another middle grade that I've heard such praise for on Instagram mainly, and a lot of the same people who put this on my radar have also loved this one, The Miraculous by Jess Redman. And this one is a 2020 release or 2019? 2019. So this did come out last year. And I don't really know much about the story, but I totally trust the people who raved about it. And so it went on my to-read list immediately. So when I saw it on Book Outlet, I had to grab it. I think it also, to some extent, deals with grief. And that is always definitely a buzzword for me. Yeah, The Miraculous is Jess Redman's stunning debut about facing grief, trusting the unknown, and finding the brightness in the darkest moments. I'm down. That sounds lovely. I picked up 2 YA this time. I am a big fan of Bridget Kemmerer. This is More Than We Can Tell, and I believe this is a sequel to Letters to the Lost, which I read 2 years ago, and I most recently read A Curse So Dark and Lonely by her and just have absolutely loved it. This is more contemporary, whereas A Curse So Dark and Lonely is a bit fantasy, mixed with a bit of contemporary, but I really like her writing, and I figured why not pick up the sequel to a book that I've already loved by her. And then this one I've heard just so much praise for over the last couple years, Emery Lord's The Names They Gave Us, and I think this happens at a camp in the summer, and I love camp type stories because I grew up going to summer camp from the time that I was 7. I think I turned 7 at a summer camp. I might have turned 8. I don't know. I was too young to go, but because my birthday was that week, they let me come. And even before that, my parents were involved in summer camp, so it's always been a big part of my life, so I'm always drawn to that. And this cover is stunning. I love trees, and I love the mixture of these colors. And I think this is also going to deal with faith and family. I believe the main character's mom has cancer, and so she's going to have a lot to deal with, a lot of things as she goes to camp and makes friends and has to deal with camp things. She's a counselor at camp, just really wants to be with her parents and her ailing mother. It's not just new friends that Lucy discovers at camp. More than one old secret is revealed along the way. In fact, maybe there's much more to her family and her faith than Lucy ever realized. Very excited for that one. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I did grab a historical fiction, Overseas by Beatrice Williams. I've read The Golden Hour by her and really liked it, and I really want to read more from her. So when I saw this for super cheap on Book Outlet, I threw it into my cart. I'm not sure what this one is about. Dual Timelines takes place in France, 1916, so tail end of World War I, and New York, 2007. And I'm sure those timelines will intersect. Another one that has been on my to-read list on Goodreads for quite a long time, and I don't remember where I first saw it. Actually, I think I had saved a picture of this book from Instagram a long time ago after seeing somebody talk about it. It's called The Weight of a Piano by Chris Kander, and I love this piano on the cover. This cover is stunning. I don't know what this is about, but I play the piano and just remember that I was drawn to this book because of someone else's description, so I grabbed it. 1962, Soviet Union. 8-year-old Katya is bequeathed what will become the love of her life, a Bluthner piano, built at the turn of the century. And then we also have a 2012 storyline, and I think these two storylines are going to be tied together because of this piano. A novel about attraction, obsession, creative passion, love, and loss. The Weight of a Piano is a dazzling exploration of how the human heart can both break and be restored. Sounds right up my alley. If you've read this or any of these, let me know. I did pick up one Christian fiction, and that's The Wedding Chapel by Rachel Hauck. It's part of the wedding series that she has, and I have quite a few of them. This is one that I didn't yet have, so was excited to see it on there and thought I would grab it. And the reason that I made this Book Outlet order is like a month or so ago, I did that video about the quizzes on Book Outlet, and the quiz told me that I should read this book next, The Garden of Small Beginnings by Abby Waxman. So this is the book that started this whole order, and of course I had to add more to it to get free shipping. And I love this cover. I know nothing about this book. I know that Abby Waxman wrote The Bookish Life of Nina Hill, which I wasn't too thrilled about, but I know people love her, and I think she's light and funny. I feel like this is a good spring/summer time read, so hopefully I can get to it soon-ish. And let's see if Book Outlet was right in recommending this to be my next read. We'll see. That is all. I did pick up one game this month, and I got code names. I'm really excited to play this one, but I need some people. I was gonna try to play with my mom and sister while we were home, but we just got stuck on Rummy Cube. There we have it. That's all the books that I hauled in June. I already know more are coming for July. I've already used a gift card that someone sent me for some books for my birthday. Very excited about that. They should be here before my birthday, which is on Tuesday. And I know that I'll be getting more books throughout the month, so it'll be looking forward to a July haul. If you like hauls, I do. I love watching people get excited about the books coming into their homes. And I would love to chat with you about any of these books that you think I should pick up this summer, or ones that you've read and loved, or ones that you didn't care for. I don't mind. Let's talk about all these books or anything else that you want to talk about in the comments down below. Give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little bell so you know when I post new videos. And I will definitely be talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.